Hello, this is Sally Magee with Magee Coaching Solutions and the next lesson on your alcohol-free challenge. Okay, so here we go. For today's lesson, I'm providing you with two of the best tools that will help you get through times when you are tempted to drink. First one is called the power of the pause, and the second one is called play the movie forward. So let's start with just kind of understanding this is part of a broader framework of understanding how your thought processes work, which will come a little bit later in the program. But for now, so we're just going to start with the first moment when your brain tells you it's time for a drink. So at some point during the day, perhaps your brain is triggered with this thought. It's time for a drink. The first step is to listen to that voice and pause, take a timeout. Before you do anything, just pause, listen to that thought, sit with the thought, and take a moment, take a couple of deep breaths. This takes a little bit of practice to be able to listen to your own thoughts, but we all have this inner dialogue that's going on just constantly in our brains. So that's where the first tool comes from, is called the power of the pause. And here's why it's important and how it works. Because sometimes our default behaviors or our habits work so fast that it's like instantaneous, that you have this thought, it's time for a drink, and you go to before you know it, you go to the cabinet, you're opening a bottle of wine, you're pouring that glass of wine, and it's just a default behavior because it's what you're used to, it's your habits, right? And that can happen really, really quickly. So what the power of the pause does is it helps us slow that process down so we can actually think about our actions. And what you're doing is moving your thought processes to this part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that regulates your thoughts, emotions, and your actions. So when you're able to make that shift from the default or the instinctual or the habit part of your brain to the prefrontal cortex by using the power of the pause, that's where you can really think through your decisions to grab a drink or not grab the drink, right? And that's where this next tool comes in, is called play the movie forward. So let's take first decision is to have the drink. Decision one. What you're trying to do here is play the movie forward and think about all of the things that happen if you continue with that course of action. So you have one drink, and let's be honest, one drink usually turns to two, maybe turns to three, and before you know it, you might be finishing that bottle of wine. That's how it worked in my brain anyway. And that's because your prefrontal cortex, that part of your brain that's responsible for your thoughts, emotions, and your actions, that's the part of your brain, amongst many parts, that's responsible for your decision making. So once you have that first drink, that part of your brain is impacted by the alcohol. So it makes the decision to have a second drink or have a third drink or have a, don't finish the bottle kind of night. Your ability to make that decision rationally is impacted by the alcohol itself, right? So two drinks may turn to three and so on until maybe you're ordering that pizza at midnight and or eating the bowl of ice cream that you said you weren't going to do. So the playing the movie forward is this trick or tool that we need to continue on. So we continue playing the movie forward, not just to the couple of glasses of wine, but through the ordering the pizza perhaps, or, the middle of the night. You're not going to get very good sleep. So you're probably waking up in the middle of the night, feeling anxious, maybe not feeling so great. And even if you didn't overdo it too badly, how do you really feel the next day, even after a couple of glasses of wine or a couple drinks the night before? You probably aren't up for that run you promised yourself. Maybe you're feeling a little brain foggy, probably not up for playing with the kids or getting to work early or even taking the dog for a walk at that point, right? And emotionally, maybe you feel like you've let yourself down and discouraged. At least that was my experience. So that's option one. And the idea is you play out the details for what this scenario looks like for you when you play the movie all the way forward, right? So option two is you don't drink. You start to notice that thought of, oh, it's time for a drink, and you introduce the power of the pause. You do something to distract yourself for a couple of minutes if that helps. Anything, just take a walk down the block, take a walk down to your mailbox and back. What you're trying to do is introduce some space between the thought and the action. And when you can space out that time in between, then you can move to more rational thinking and decision making. That's when you're also going to start to be able to surf the urge, and we're going to come to that in tomorrow's lesson, actually. So another tactic I find that's really helpful is this mindfulness exercise. It's called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, to force your brain into decision-making mode. And what it's doing is really forcing your brain to make logical thinking and by enacting your senses. So here's how this works. You take a couple of deep breaths, just a nice couple of in through the nose, out through the mouth, some soothing breaths. And you start by noticing 5 things around you that you can see that are a certain color, 4 things around you that you can touch, 3 things around you that you can hear, 2 things around you that you can smell, 1 thing that you can taste, right? So this is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Each of the steps in that exercise are building on your senses, right? So that's, again, you're tricking your brain into moving to that logical decision-making prefrontal cortex part of your brain that's really drawing on your senses to come up with the 5, 4, 3, 2 1 things around you. Okay, so that's another kind of helpful tool once you're in that power of the pause mode. So we go back to playing the movie forward, and this time, don't drink is our scenario. And this is where this tool can really be powerful, is when you can visualize how this will play out all the way forward with don't drink as the scenario, all the way forward to tomorrow morning, not just through your happy hour triggers or that immediate sense of, oh, I need a drink, right? This is where the power really comes in, is when you go all the way through to tomorrow morning. So you're able to get through that first trigger of I need a drink. You distract yourself, you do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you consciously make the decision to not drink. You can drink something else, right? So keep the ritual, change the ingredients, one of my favorite sayings by Janie Lee Grace. So you do this with me. Visualize as I describe it. Really picture in your mind how all of these steps play out. You get to the end of your workday, you think, oh, I need a drink. And instead you go to the wine cabinet or your cabinet in the kitchen, and you grab your fancy wine glass. You don't open the wine, but instead you pour yourself a spritzer. I used to drink a pomegranate spritzer. It was my go-to because it was red. It kind of looked like red wine. Keep the ritual, change the ingredients, right? And make yourself a nice, fancy, festive something non-alcoholic in your favorite beverage glass, or an NA beer in your favorite pint glass, for example. So as we're playing the movie forward, you can visualize filling your glass with something not alcoholic. You make yourself some dinner, you have a nice relaxing meal, maybe you turn on the TV with your partner and watch a movie or your favorite episode of whatever book or whatever movie or episode that you're watching. Perhaps you read a book, play Scrabble on your iPad, whatever your deal is in the evening. Take your dog for a walk, you call your friend, lots of ways to fill your time. The important thing is that you're doing something else in that time that you would normally be drinking, right? So keep playing that movie forward. You get through your bewitching hour. You get to your sober pillow that night. You have good sleep because you haven't had the alcohol that's disrupting your sleep. And you wake up the next morning feeling pretty rested. You're not waking up at 3 a.m. with anxiety where your brain chemicals are all messed up from the alcohol that you've had that morning or that night. So the next morning, you feel pretty good. You've made it through that witching hour, and you start to build a little bit of confidence that you did it yesterday, right? And if you did it yesterday, you can do it again today. And this is where the power of positive emotion that I talked about in yesterday's lesson really is going to help you to create some new habits. Because when you get up tomorrow morning and you think, oh, I did it yesterday, I survived last night, whatever the trigger might have been, and I made it through the evening. I got to my sober pillow. I made it to the following morning. You start to have those that positive reinforcement, and you've been able to keep that promise to yourself. You're starting to feel a little bit more confident, a little bit stronger, moving toward your goals. So that's where the power of the positive emotion really helps those new habits sink in. So the next morning, so tomorrow morning, I want you to do this. Think about how well you did tonight or last night, and thinking about all the things that you're gaining, all of the reasons that you wrote down in your why list for homework yesterday. All those things that you want as outcomes. Remember, you'll go farther faster when you're focused on what you're gaining versus what you're giving up. So whenever you need to, you can revisit that why, the desire, in order to stay motivated. So that's what Power of the Pause, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise, and playing the movie forward is all about. And I hope this was helpful. A couple tools for your toolkit that are going to come in super helpful throughout the course of this challenge. And progress, just remember, comes by taking baby steps. At first, it's a day or two, then the days add up, it gets easier. I promise it gets way easier. Just stick with me, keep coming back for the lessons, do the work, because it is work, and you're going to do amazing. So keep on going. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Let me know if there's any questions, and come on back here tomorrow. Same channel, same place. We'll see you then.